Today we have Salma Nagy coming to join us for a conversation. How are you today, Salma?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you. It's nice to finally talk to you.
Yes, after a
So,
long correspondence
yes, definitely. We found the time. Where are you calling in from?
from the UAE.
UAE. Nice. Do you
Yeah.
live in Dubai or near Dubai or somewhere else?
Yeah, around that area.
Cool. Wow. It's so crazy. We're just on opposite sides of the globe right now.
Yeah, precisely in the literal sense.
I know. It's crazy technology. So, Salma, could you tell me a little bit about your background and what your area of expertise is and where you're at now, what you're doing now?
All right. I graduated last year from school. So now I'm a university student. I'm studying chemical engineering. I'm about to finish my first year of university. At school, I did a British curriculum, so I did all the IGCSEs and A levels. And throughout my studies, I always took science-based courses and math-based courses. And I guess I've continued that onto university now that I'm taking chemical engineering.
Very cool.
So yeah.
Chemical engineering. Nice. That's awesome. It's a very different world. I'm a my well, I have a variety of areas of what I do, but one of them is history. I am a history teacher. We're kind of on different ends of the
Oh no, that's great.
spectrum a little bit, but
But
that's
yeah,
good.
it's
Yeah.
completely different.
Yeah. So yeah, history is fascinating to me. It's something I continue to
Mm.
study. Big reason to even do this podcast. So, and I found you by finding your TED talk, and I'd like to ask you, could you tell me how you ended up doing that and kind of how you got into that?
So our school holds it's a TEDx Space Center. So every year they would have a TEDx event where all students would be invited to speak at it if you pass through the auditions. I had the guts to go through auditions when I was in year 11. And I was like, I really want to do this because public speaking was something that I was very interested in, and it was fun for me. It's kind of like my thing, my forte. I auditioned for the TEDx talk, and I got accepted, and then I went on to do my talk. The theme for that specific year was the big question.
Mhm.
So for in the months following the TEDx talk event itself, I've been searching for what the biggest question could be because I had a lot of questions and I'm a naturally curious person. And that's why I went into science, I guess, because every single question I asked always had an answer.
Mhm.
So, my father at the time proposed to me a topic, and he was like, how about you read up on the hollow earth? And at the time, that was something I'd never heard of. It was a first. But the more that I read it up about it and the more that I researched into it, the more questions I had. So I ended up into the into this like rabbit hole of reading up on Hollow Earth and what's right and what's
Mhm.
wrong because it's all based on theories and
Yeah.
people's accounts and that too dead people that we can't really question anymore.
Hmm.
So it seemed like a very interesting topic to me. And what I liked about it is that it was controversial.
Hmm.
So every single person has a different take on it. And usually I stay away from controversial topics so that people don't come at me. But this one I felt comfortable presenting because it was kind of in my field of science. So what I did was I searched and kept my facts science based. So there was a point at which my research turned mythological, but then I always tried keeping it science-based and just looking at the facts that I have. And based on that, I've made all the assumptions that I made and I presented it at the talk. So yeah.
Nice. Do you know how your father got into that topic or first came upon it?
I think he probably encountered it as well through his research because he's also an academic and into science as well. So I'm pretty sure he must have gone through his own research and came about it. And then he proposed to me and he thought I might be interested in it, which he was right. And here I am now. I still do think about it occasionally, like, did I present enough evidence in my talk, or can we add more, or how can we advance this?
Hmm.
So one of my long-term career goals is to go more into this topic.
Yeah, and you know what? That's one of the reasons I reached out to you after I saw the video is I wanted to talk to somebody who might seriously try to move this forward even some
Hmm.
amount, and
Yeah.
it's a fascinating topic, and so that's really great. So now you did the TED talk how many years ago?
I think it was 2020,
Okay.
just before COVID hit.
Nice. All right. About 3 years. And have you done any further research into this since then?
I did read up on it more,
Hmm.
and I tried reaching out to experts, but I couldn't. It didn't seem like there was an endpoint to the theory, and nobody was really clear about where it's going and in what direction. So I left it at my TED talk, and then I wanted to, once I've become more of an expert in my field, I wanted to then carry it forward. So I will definitely be picking up the topic again sometime in the near future.
So did nobody get back to you who you reached out to?
I did get in contact with an academic. I'm sorry, I completely forgot the name, but
Oh, it's okay.
what she was onto about was how this relates to the composition of Earth. In my talk, I present a question to the audience where we can't really trust science, is what I said. Can we really trust science?
Mm,
And it's not something that it's kind of ironic that I'm saying this, but the Earth composition, for example, the fact that we say that the Earth has a core, mantle, and crust is
mm.
completely based on assumptions. We don't
Right,
even know. We are not sure.
right.
So what she proposed to me was that we can be wrong, and people over the course of history have been proved wrong again and again and again, and we just
Mhm.
keep building up on people's work. So that's why it might be that our model of the earth is completely wrong and that the earth is actually in fact hollow.
Right.
And in my talk I presented three reasons why I think it might be hollow. And the first of them was because of the northern winds, and how the northerly winds carry more dust than any other winds on the planet,
Hmm.
and how, for example, the encounter of Admiral Richard Byrd in his
Hmm.
diary of entering a hollow interior of the earth and traveling over all these mountains and lakes and rivers, and
Hmm.
how Edmund Halley, the celebrated scientist,
Right.
said that the variations in Earth's magnetic field couldn't be just a coincidence. So, what if we take a step back and we look at the big picture and we connect the dots?
Hmm.
And the possible solution is that the Earth might indeed be hollow, like the other planets. Now, there is a common fact that the other planets are indeed hollow, like Mars, because of the ringing.
Hmm.
So, why not Earth, is my
Right.
question.
Right. Now, let me ask you, is this a fact that other planets have a hollow interior? Has that been verified?
I'm not sure if it's been verified, but it
Okay.
was common knowledge for people that it might be hollow.
Okay.
I think I read up on Mars somewhere, but I'll have to double check that.
Got you. So yeah, I feel like there's many different points that we would, if we're gonna sort of really try to seriously propose this, right? There's many points we have to address. And so that would be a
Mhm.
strong point. If we can say there are other planets in which this has happened, then that
Yeah.
gives us a nice piece of evidence as part of the
Hmm.
argument, right? Um, Now I am familiar with the winds. I'm familiar with a lot of actually the reasons why this theory is put out there. And now to go back to what you were saying about that the Earth's core, this is something, it's not like we have gone down there and seen it. It's not like we've
Yeah.
even, and when I started to research this, because, I got to the point where I read the theories and the ideas, and then I'm like, okay, well, what does official science say about what's on the inside of the earth, And how do we know that? So I started to research, and of course, my time is limited, but as far as I got was, and correct me if I'm wrong here, or add on whatever you may, but so the we've only drilled, because I'm like, all right, the only way we really know what's on the inside of the earth is if we drill down there and actually take stuff out or look
Yeah.
at it. And
Which is not practical.
right, and I looked at like where's the deepest that we've ever drilled in, right? And I think it was somewhere in Russia, and it was
Mm-hmm.
it was only it was such a small amount compared to the distance to the center of the earth.
Yeah.
Like, so yes, in terms of physically seeing what's there, we have no idea. And all of the theories of the mantle and the core and all that are just based on seismographic information. Is that
Yes.
correct? And how
Yes.
how how like positive can we be off of this seismographic information about what's really on the inside of the earth? Is it very accurate, or is it just kind of our best guess? Because science presents it as like hard fact, like this is what the inside
Yeah.
of the earth looks like, and
Mm,
it's like, are we sure about that? I don't know. Do you know do you know more
exactly.
about that? Like
Because
how do we know that
science,
the core is made of iron or whatever it is, nickel, you know do we really know that from seismographic information? It seems.
exactly, it's all based on guesswork. And for example, a few years ago, we all thought that there were 9 planets in the solar system.
Mhm.
And then later on, they decided that no, there were 8 planets because Pluto was not fulfilling the third requirement of being a planet, and that's clearing its path of dust. So now that we've proved a theory wrong, or something that was a fact,
Mm.
it was a fact that there are 9 planets. We proved that wrong. So why not this? Like, how, based on what are we for certain? Because we know more about the surface of the sun than the planet beneath our feet.
Right.
From the astrophysical data that we collect, we
Mhm.
can do all the redshift and blue shift and find distances from here to the sun, and that's been tried and tried again, time and time again. So, but how sure are we about the distance into the Earth? And how
Yeah.
sure are we about the composition of the earth?
Right.
So science, what I'm trying to get at is that science is a process and that we need to build upon it because nothing is for certain. And this is a point where I would like to quote Vernon Jordan. Um, it's a quote I absolutely love, and it says, "You are where you are today because you stand on somebody's shoulders." And wherever you're heading, you cannot get there by yourself. So
Mm.
we are building upon years and years of knowledge and research, and now it's our turn to reciprocate that and continue doing that forward.
Right. Well said. And that makes me think of another quote I heard the other day, which is science. This is not exactly it, but the concept is science is built on the many deaths of,
Mm,
people
yeah,
that whose theory was the way, and then that's gone but we needed that, even though it
yeah.
was incomplete or maybe totally false, we needed that to figure out what was right.
And Isaac Newton's famous shoulders of giants quote as well. You're standing on the shoulders of giants for you who've done the work as well. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's the quid pro quo of life.
Yeah, that's great. So, do you know, are there any serious studies being done into this now in the
As
scientific
of now,
academic community?
I'm not really sure. I think if there was a breakthrough, it would have been like headline breaking news. So I'm not
Mhm.
sure if anything major has happened in this
Right.
field or in terms of this topic.
Okay. And have you researched from a scientific perspective? And so this is where, in my research, this is where I realized it gets difficult. And this is why I would love to have like a group or something that tries to explore this for our own sake, if nothing else,
Yeah.
because once I get into geology and
Mm,
environmental science and all of that, right? That's not my expertise. So then it requires
yeah.
me to like self teach myself a whole bunch of vocabulary
Mm,
and concepts and then to judge how valid they are. And it's like
yeah.
it's not practical. So,
Mm,
right, the next place that I think that this would have to go is, okay, let's say that it's really true. Is it possible for there to be this central sun inside there, like we think
mm,
about, which I think is an interesting theory because we say the core is there, right? This
yeah.
really hot circle in the middle, right? So it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like conceptually, it doesn't seem like such a stretch to say there's this sort of sun there. And
Mm,
right, because that's part of the theory, right? Is that there's this sun in the middle,
yeah.
and there's mountains and there's water and there's trees. Is that let's say we made that model in terms of like environmental science, geology, all of that, atmospheric science, is that possible? That's what I don't know.
Yeah. How feasible is it
Because if it's
to have
like
something like that?
totally right, if it's like totally not possible, then it's almost like I could
Mm,
stop wasting my time sort of looking into this.
exactly.
But do you know
Yeah.
if have you, come research that aspect at all?
A few days actually before my talk, I had my speech ready and I had my information and I was confident I'm gonna say this, this, and that.
Hmm.
And then I came across a news article that was published at that time instant. And the headline was something along the lines of geologists are baffled by massive anomalies at the Earth's core.
Mm,
So I took a screenshot of that news headline and I added that to my talk and I said, could that mean that we need to upgrade our facts about the Earth's structure? Is there really a hollow Earth based on this?
mm,
And I'm not sure if they found the cause for the anomalies, but that was just something to tell us that something unpredictable is happening at the Earth's core, something unforeseeable. We did not see that coming, basically.
mm,
So the fact that it happened and we weren't expecting it could mean that something might be wrong with our model, or it might mean that we have to add something. But in either cases, something is up.
right, right. And that was something I tried to do too when I researched this, was I tried to look at the most recent information. And there was a handful of things that came up and that became separate rabbit holes that I kind of bookmarked for. I'm gonna have to go down those later because
Yeah.
there's just life and everything else going on. So, but I know that recently there was a project where they were drilling or they were doing seismographic research somewhere, and they found water coming
Mm.
from from deep inside the Earth's crust or from in the interior of Earth. They
Wow.
they found water, which I thought was interesting because if
Yeah.
there really is this contiguous body of water that runs through the middle, maybe that's some of it coming through. If they drilled through or whatever,
Yeah.
maybe it's some of that coming through. In any case, it's something that doesn't fit the model, like you said. And then there was
Yeah.
another one that was like kind of presented something new to the field. And I think it was that they were finding that there were these large cavities
Yeah.
that in the
I
model
think
they didn't account for.
I think the most important thing for us is to stay curious and just continue with this work, because the more we're, as you've said, as you've pro- as you've suggested these two stories that you came across, the more we learn about the earth, the more questions we have, the more, the more we don't know, we realize we don't know.
Mm,
So every time we learn something new about the earth, it adds to something that we've previously decided, or it takes away from it.
mm-hmm,
So could the fact that water was coming out of the crust, could that mean that there really is a water layer going through in the hollow earth? Or does it add to the theory? So I think this is definitely a topic that needs to be researched more
mm-hmm,
by experts in the field.
right.
And
Yeah.
for the record, I
Mm-hmm,
mean, the hollow earth theory is, it's called a theory,
mm-hmm,
right? And the definition for a theory is that it's a bunch of ideas that explain something based on principles of science. So no matter how accurate our calculations can be, practically, sometimes that doesn't go down well. And that's what we've been taught at school. So the fact that it's called a theory doesn't mean that it doesn't mean we need to dismiss the idea completely, because it is based on principles of science. And the second point is that we don't have evidence because of that, the fact that the earth is not hollow. We don't have
mm-hmm,
evidence because the accepted model of the earth's composition is just based on assumptions and inconclusive evidence. So, and that's the case with most of the facts and the theories that we come up with when we talk about environments where humans cannot be, like the sun's surface, for example.
mm-hmm,
So, really, how long can a fact stay a fact? Because we are just building upon it with guesswork and inconclusive evidence until it falls apart. And the hollow earth theory hasn't fallen apart yet. I don't
mm-hmm.
think so, at least. I still believe that it can go until we reach a breaking point where it starts to fall apart.
Right. Yeah. To my knowledge and research, there's nothing that has outright just, killed it.
Completely dismissed it, yeah.
Right. Now, this sort of leads to another question and almost another avenue of this whole topic, which is let's say that, do you remember Gardner? He was one of the first serious
Yeah.
scientists to write about it. And Haley, like you said, Gardner, and I think there was one more.
Jules
And
Verne, I mean, he wrote the book.
right, right, yeah. I'm not sure if yeah, I know he wrote the novel, right? And and I think it was inspired in part by that research that had been done.
Yeah.
I know Gardner like really put forth a serious scientific argument. And then you had that guy Sims, do you remember that?
Yeah.
He was trying to actually go there, and and because
Mm,
he believed in it, and he petitioned Congress a bunch of times, and then
yeah.
they almost actually gave him the money to go, but they ended up voting it down. So my
Mm,
question, I guess, is if, let's say, there were these reports, let's say there were these proposed theories from these respected scientists, and then let's say when Admiral Byrd was one of the first people to fly there, let's say he really did see something like that, unexplainable. And now, why wouldn't the government go there?
yes.
And and so maybe, this begs the question of course, it's possible that they kept it secret. And
Yeah.
so, what do you think? What's your feelings about that at this point? Do you think that there's a reason why the government, do you think there's like a plain and dry reason why the government hasn't actually seriously gone there and to like try to fly in there or like see what's going on? Or do you think it's possible that they know about it and it's like a top secret thing?
I'm actually grinning right now. I'm because I like the way this is going. It let me so after I read about the encounters of Admiral Richard Byrd and Marshall Gardner and how, people were trying to go in there and it was almost like the government didn't want them to go.
Mm,
So I then went on down another rabbit hole and started reading about Area 51. And I think that's
yeah,
pretty much self-explanatory.
right.
So I thought that it might tie into the theory of the Hollow Earth, maybe, possibly, because Area 51, we aren't actually sure what's going on there, no matter what is being said.
Right.
So I wondered whether that ties in with the theory for the Hollow Earth, because in both cases, we're forbidden from visiting those areas, and it's as if the government's trying to keep it hushed. So,
Hmm.
I don't know, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility, and I think people will hear that kind of thing, and a lot of people might think, there's a stigma to it. There's a, oh, that's, conspiracy theory. But,
Yeah.
the government, we literally have hard evidence cases that the government has covered things up
Yeah.
and things are classified for a reason. They're not, we don't know what the classified information is
Yeah.
unless it leaks out. And even when it does leak out, that usually can never be 100% verified if the person was lying or if they actually were a whistleblower.
There were talks about the reason why this theory is being covered up is that this one's a bit of a funny one. It's ridiculous, but it was as if the government can foresee whether a natural disaster or something with a huge magnitude, something happens to the earth and everything's just demolished.
Mhm.
They have a place to escape to in the
Right.
hollow earth.
Right. And
So it was
yeah.
yeah, it is. I mean, it is practical. It is possible. They were talking about how an asteroid might hit the Earth and they want to hide down, or if something like a nuclear bomb went off, or if World War III possibly happens, then they have somewhere to escape to, which I thought was interesting.
Mhm.
That all these ideas were being put forward, and it shows how supportive everyone is of the government
Yeah.
in
And
the
that,
sarcastic sense.
yeah, no, and that's something I've thought about with this whole topic is, let's say there are other beings who live in other planets who have evolved for many, many years. Let's say they've even been in Earth. If you think about trying to make sure that your race of beings lasts the test of time, the
Yeah.
surface of the planet is way more dangerous than if you can get into the interior. if that really
Yeah.
exists and is sustainable to life, of course, right? It's much better to be on the interior because then
Yeah.
all the atmospheric disasters on the outside, you're safe from them. So you could, in theory, last, thousands and thousands and thousands of
Yeah.
years. Whereas, like, technically, any day now, we could there could be a catastrophe. I mean, they've happened throughout history, right? Every
Yeah.
so often in the Earth's history, right? So it makes sense in
There's
that sense.
also, yeah, there's also some like the pandemic. We didn't know the end of it. It was as almost as if there was no coming out of it. So that was also something else that was proposed. What if an even stronger pandemic, an even more dangerous one, were to hit Earth and they needed somewhere to escape to?
Hmm.
Like just leave everyone dying on the surface and all the catastrophes happen, and then everyone else just hides down there. But really, I mean, how long can you really live?
Hmm.
If even if you decide to go down and hide in the hollow earth,
Hmm.
how long will you actually live to say, you've beat the system?
Right. Right. I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't know, but it would seem at the least it would in theory be a safer place,
Yeah.
right? Than the outside, which is subject to debris, space debris, and climatic
Mm,
weather and all of that. But I don't know what the weather patterns would be like on the insides. That's where this topic just becomes so wide and requires
yeah,
multidisciplinary approach. So,
exactly.
yeah. So the Admiral Byrd thing is what originally got me hooked into this topic because
Mm,
to me, when I heard that the reports that he made, I was just, to me it's like, okay, this needs an explanation. Why did this person who is credible say this? Now, here's the thing.
yeah.
Those reports of him saying that he flew into and saw a mammoth and saw a woolly mammoth, saw green mountains, and then even talked to people, that
Mm.
was, as far as we know, that's was totally fictionalized. It was supposed to be
Ooh.
it was supposed to
Mm.
be his diaries, but it was shown to be a hoax. Now, does that mean that it's definitely a hoax? Well, when you approach history as a science, right, I would say no, because there is still a chance that maybe some of it was real, maybe elements of it were actually true, and somebody got a hold of it and published that and maybe fabricated it. Now, the other thing too is that a dis part of a disinformation campaign in the intelligence community, I have heard, is to mix. So let's say Admiral Byrd really, when he flew, he actually did start seeing green mountains, right? And I don't know. Let's say maybe he really did see a woolly mammoth, and maybe that's all he saw, right?
All right.
And now this book comes out, which is where this story comes from. It's called The Secret Diary of Admiral Byrd, which
Yeah.
was a hoax, right? Now, let's say those two pieces of information were actually real. Now they mix it with all of this really far-fetched stuff that he went down there and that he met these beings who said this and that.
Yeah.
And the script from the book was almost the same as a science fiction movie. So to anybody that reads that, now they go, oh, this whole thing is like nonsense, and you discount everything where maybe one part of that was true, but now you reject the whole thing because it's nonsense. So I've gone down, to share with you about the Admiral Byrd thing. I've spent a good amount of time researching him and everything, and I've boiled it down to a few things, right? There's an
Yeah.
and I can share these with you. I can send you these after, but he did an interview and it's on YouTube. It's public domain. I'm gonna briefly share with you the boiling down of my deep dives into Admiral Byrd and his whole connection to all this. Because would you agree that he's a key figure in this whole
Yeah.
theory?
Yeah, I actually started my research off of from his accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, what I know is that I didn't actually think of his diary as being something of a hoax or something that someone else made up. But I guess that's where historians come in and how primary data and secondary data comes in. But
Mm-hmm.
what I know is that it's said that he flew to the North and South Poles. And what got me thinking is why would they take such a credible figure like him, as you said, someone who was very well respected, a US Navy colonel, and why would they make up things like that about him?
Mm-hmm.
So what I know is that in his supposed diary, he tells of entering the hollow earth and traveling over mountains and lakes and rivers and animals. And this is the part where I actually didn't fully believe it myself. The fact that he found cities and was greeted with flying machines and spoke to people. My when I think of the Hollow Earth theory, there's only a bit of it that I actually believe in, and it's just that the Earth is hollow and that there are three layers inside, possibly. But I don't really think I believe in all the advanced cities and people living under there and things like that. So that's why I didn't really believe it when I read his account of the story. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe something is going on there, maybe something is fishy. But now that you brought it up, that's actually really interesting to hear that
Mm-hmm.
his diary wasn't actually fully his first person account.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, we have some interviews with him and some press conferences. Of course, there's some biographies of him, but actually, what I'm planning to do this summer is all of his personal diaries, notes, everything that was ever in his own personal archive is actually kept uh, at Ohio State University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, everything.
So you're
So
planning on visiting?
I'm gonna go there. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
gonna
that's
go.
great.
Yeah, I'm gonna spend a day or two and just see if there's anything I could find that maybe he saw something spectacular at either of the poles,
Yeah.
because we got to go right to the source. And of course,
Yeah,
if there was anything and it was classified top secret, it's not going to be there. But
probably.
but we're all humans, right? So I'm hoping that if this is all
Something
true.
might have slipped.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I'm hoping that something that might have slipped and maybe there's one little thing, you know?
Yeah, maybe it doesn't add up and something is missing, and yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I
no,
will,
it was great.
I will say though, you should check out that interview. It Both the interviews, there's something open for interpretation that he says that stuck out to me. When he went to the North Pole, he said he said soon soon people are going to be going there to live there, and countries are going to be using it to set up colonies and to live there.
Oh.
And to me, that seemed a bit inconsistent, just because if it's freezing cold, harsh conditions,
Mm,
why would he go on this interview and say pretty soon a lot of people or countries are going to be going there to live there?
yeah.
So if he maybe did like see the
Did
further
like
north
see
he
the
went,
further north
that there was
and
green
there
mountains
was
and
green
water,
mountains.
that statement makes sense. But if they just saw the kind of dead land of ice and freezing cold, why would he say people are going to start living there? Of course, there's,
Exactly.
it could be a legitimate explanation to that, but I found that a little bit strange. And then, are you aware of Operation High Jump?
No,
Okay, so
I don't think I am.
that's the other thing that Byrd is famous for. Now, of course, he was the first American to fly to the North Pole and the South Pole,
Yeah.
and actually, whether or not he was the first person is a debate because of his diaries and because of other explorers that might
Yeah.
have gone there earlier. But of course, there's the whole issue with the compasses, and like I'm sure you're familiar with, if there really is an interior, it curves. So you might think, and it curves very slowly and gradually. So
Yes.
they
Yeah.
might have like thought, according to their readings, they were at the North Pole, but they actually were just starting to go in. If
Go
you
inside.
Yeah, which actually like makes sense to me. It took me a little bit to visualize it, but then I was like, oh, that makes sense. You wouldn't even know if you were walking or whatever.
Exactly.
You wouldn't know, and you're just slowly going inside.
It's all about the perspective, like just stepping back and looking at it from the big picture. Because yeah, you wouldn't know if you're just walking, as you said.
Yeah. But anyway, Operation High Jump was after World War II ended and the Germans were defeated and the war was over. The United States sent a very large expedition to go to Antarctica. And
Okay.
Admiral Byrd was the leader of it. And
Oh,
yeah, they officially said that it was just for scientific exploration. But Admiral Byrd himself in a press conference said, quote, the nature of my expedition is military. Now there are rumors that the Nazis, well, actually the Nazis had a base in Antarctica, and
okay.
yeah, there's that's a fact, right? But now the very far theories are that they actually had this whole base. They actually had kind of gone into part of the inner earth and established a whole
Uh-huh.
established a whole thing there. That's what that theory is. Um, and so the theory is that the United States intelligence caught wind of this, and that's why right after the war ended, to make sure that the Nazis were totally gone, they sent this expedition. And if you look at the facts of the expedition, it was massive, and they sent a bunch of warships and planes that were all capable of, it was like for war. And
Wow.
they went down to Antarctica, right? And then all of a sudden they cut the mission short and they returned back. That's a fact.
Oh,
Now, the theory, of course, the speculation, the hypothesis is they went down there, they saw that the Nazis had sort of these superior technology. In this case, the hypothesis is that they had, anti-gravity craft, flying saucers, right? Now, the funny thing is, sounds crazy, but actually the Nazis were actually developing or trying to develop flying saucer craft. And
um,
that's actually documented that they were trying to. Now, there's no documentation that they successfully did, but if the hypothesis, if you're going to entertain the hypothesis, okay, it's possible that they went down there,
mhm.
did that. So that's the hypothesis, that Admiral Byrd and this huge war fleet turned back because they realized something crazy was going on. Now,
Yeah.
on his way back, he was interviewed in Chile by a newspaper, and in the newspaper, and this is where we have to be careful, because a lot of people will say that he said we need to be prepared for crafts that are capable of flying from pole to pole at incredible speeds.
Oh,
That's what a lot of articles online or videos will say that he said,
okay.
but
Mm.
that's actually false. Um, and but he did really do this interview, and you really can get the article and the transcript. But what he did say was, he did say, in the next war, we are going to have to be prepared for enemies that are capable of flying and attacking from the poles.
Wow.
So that's what he said. Now, you still could take that statement and you could you could technically say, did he see something there? You know? But
Yeah.
you could also take that statement to just mean what it means, you know. In any event, they turned back, and that's where this whole hypothesis comes from, that he also saw something in the South Pole. And oh, and then the last thing that, and I'll stop on my Admiral Bird rant here, but now the only thing,
No, it's interesting.
yeah,
Wow.
the only thing that gives me a nice little interesting piece of evidence of to this hypothesis is he was interviewed right before they went down on this Operation High Jump, which was highly classified, by the way, and apparently still is classified. But anyway, he right before that he did a TV interview, and you can watch that also on YouTube, public domain. And he says, and they ask him, why are you going to the Antarctica? You know, they say, what's the nature of this? And
Right.
he says, we're right now we have a reconnaissance mission that's down there. And right now they're, quote, looking for some bases.
Mhm.
And then he says, once we get the information back from them, we're going to plan our expedition and go off of that. Now, here's what I think about that statement. If they were looking for like places where the US could set up a base, I would think you would be a little more clear and say like, we're looking
Yeah,
for areas that are suitable for a base, right?
exactly.
Whereas if they were looking for like rumored Nazi bases, then he might say something
Yeah,
like, we're looking for some bases. So I thought, of course, it doesn't prove anything, but I think it like
yeah,
it keeps that open. Like, was there something top secret that they were? I don't know.
yeah, exactly. Wording, I feel like when it comes to this topic, the wording of everything that we have, whatever anyone says, it's very, very important because what I've realized is that most of the direct quotes that we've had were always vague, like they weren't actually clear or direct. And also, I find it very interesting and weird that every time something fishy is going on, it's to do with militarization, but then they say it's in the name of science or vice versa. Like with Area 51, they're saying, they're prepping the US military, and that's where their training goes on. And but people are actually coming up with these science theories of aliens being hidden there and dissections and things like that going on. And it's the same with the hollow earth theory that, as you've said, they went down to the expedition in the name of science, but it was a military act. Like Admiral Byrd was a US Navy member. So it's weird how it's always these two together correlating.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes sense why it would be kept secret if they didn't want other militaries of other countries, enemies, to find out about it. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily, and I always think about this, it's not necessarily that they don't want the public to know because they're just mean, you know, like they don't want
Hmm.
anybody to know because they legitimately don't want other enemies to find out what they might know.
Exactly. You never know what the actual intention is behind it. Is it actually to keep it from the public or the enemies? If the public knew something, news would spread and it would reach the enemies that they're trying to keep out from. But at the same time, it's kind of it's arising it's as if this mistrust is arising within the public.
Mm.
Can we actually trust the government? Is it doing things for our own good or in our favor? There's all the speculation and fear and all the conspiracy theories. So are they actually doing more harm than good by keeping this information classified?
Right, right. It is a balance, right? Have you
Hmm.
followed at all the recent development in the last couple years of UAPs?
I'm not sure what that is.
So UAP is the new term, at least in the US, for UFOs.
Ah,
And it's unidentified aerial phenomenon.
okay, so that's the new name they've come up with.
Yeah. And actually since 2021, the United States government is now seriously talking about this and is now seriously investigating it.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
That's honestly great.
they've even released
D-
videos, and it's pretty it's very historic, honestly, because for 60, 70 years now, they haven't ever really directly addressed it.
Yeah, exactly. And why is it just something out of the blue when they've known this? Like, there have been so many encounters over the years of people citing UFOs, and even it even relates to the theory that some believe that UFOs are not from other planets, but are actually manufactured in the Earth's interior. And that's where the flying saucers and all that stuff comes in. So there have been all these accounts of people, of UFO sightings over the years. Why did the government decide to speak up now in
Mhm.
2021? Like, that's a bit weird. Unless something is up, something's happening behind the scenes, something they know is coming, and or maybe it's they're preparing to tell the public about the hollow earth. Maybe, possibly, they're taking it step by step and they're trying to research into UFOs and then present their findings to the public and then say, you know what, maybe there is a hollow earth. Maybe it's might be a bit part of their tactic to reveal the information they know, or maybe it's just something that randomly cropped up. But I do not believe in coincidence in this matter.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think that there's aliens and that crafts have come here or at least been seen?
That's the part actually that I don't believe in with
Okay.
the Hollow Earth theory. And I mean, Area 51 was actually very intriguing to realize that, to know that they might have aliens down there and they're dissecting them and things like that. But with the Hollow Earth theory, I'm not sure because, again, it's
What
based on
about in
guesswork, but
what about in general? Just like that. I mean, that was kind of my question. Like not
yeah,
necessarily from
it's like
Hollow Earth, just in general in the universe.
it's crazy to me that, or it's hard for me to accept the idea of there being aliens out there. And we have things like the Drake equation. They're trying to prove aliens. They've been searching for years and years, and we've been searching for Earth-like planets. But I guess this is where religion comes in.
Mm.
With me, I don't actually believe in that. I just believe that there's life on Earth and we're here for a purpose, I guess. So yeah, that's the extent of where theory and science takes us.
What is stopping a massive expedition from going there and just really trying to, what's stopping from some explorer
Just
who's
uncover.
maybe
Yeah.
read about this, and people do crazy
Mm,
things, right? They go all over the place. How come nobody
yeah,
has gone and like really tried to verify it?
that's interesting question because again, as we've seen, there were um, several instances where people actually tried doing it and then the government was trying to stop them from doing it. So I guess it's number one is just fear. Fear of the truth, I think, and fear of, being stopped. Being stopped is, the normal fear, but fear of the truth, like, what do we do after we know that there's a hollow earth? what do we do if we do find aliens down there? What are we gonna do? And people are going to fight about who gets the priority or the privilege of going and living down there, and who gets it. Like, we're already fighting over resources on the surface of the earth. So imagine if there is an interior unlocked as well. That's that makes it 10 times worse. Um, there's also, like now there's the militarization of the Arctic, and how all the countries are fighting for their share of the Arctic Circle and who gets what. And now that there is might be a hollow Earth, it's gonna make it 10 times worse. And I think it's gonna cause a lot of problems. So yeah, I think fear of the truth mainly. And what if it's wrong? What if the whole theory is debunked? What happens to all those people who said that they saw these things? Are they all liars? But
Mhm.
their stories did match up. So how come all of them just played around the same story? And these people came at different timelines. It's not like they all were present in the same decade and they decided to come up with this story and throw people off. No, these are people over the span of two different centuries, so, like Marshall and Admiral Richard Byrd. So their theories do line up and they were in different timelines. So it makes me believe that it wasn't really just a story, but something that might actually be possible. So until then, I guess people are afraid, but I think we are starting to see more people taking on challenges, and there might be a breakthrough in the years to come, honestly.
Mhm. Yeah. So, from your interest in this, and I know earlier you said one of your goals is to continue this research to some extent. Where would you go next? What would you focus on?
Um, so for me, honestly, it's to graduate first. And then I think I have so many goals, as I've said. I want to study geology later on. I want to concentrate in geology as well. I said I want to go into energy and sustainability and that type of stuff. And I think geology really harnesses that, and it's going to be helpful with the Hollow Earth theory. And I also want to go into science communication. And I guess that's one of the reasons I did this TEDx talk, is because I want to get into science communication, because through science communication, you get to you get to play detective and get to talk to all these people and try and figure out something. And something that I want to do, and it's my main goal in life, is I want to do something great. I want to give back to the world, and I don't want to just graduate, get a job, and then live my life and then die. I want to do something that's actually going to be significant and it's going to change the course of time. And I think the fact that this was proposed to me at a young age, it's something that I could go with even further. So yeah, I'm gonna start off, I guess, with just becoming a bit more of an expert in this field. And I know you have the history background, and I guess I'll be focusing on the science based field, and like the facts that we've got, which is that's what I'm good at, I guess. So yeah, I have a question for you actually.
Sure.
I'm just the way you've been talking throughout this podcast, there's so much enthusiasm in your voice, and you seem really, really interested and passionate about it. So why or how did you get into it, and why are you still passionate about this topic?
I think I got into it because I just happened to see one of those Admiral Byrd alleged interview quotes, and
Yeah.
and that's what got me just diving into it. And then I bought the book. I'm not sure if you read the book, the Hollow Earth book, the old one from by I
I
forget
did
his name.
find an online copy.
Yeah, by Raymond. What is it? Raymond Bernard.
Yeah, something along those lines.
So he does a good job of presenting like all of the kind of history and the theories of it. But anyway, yeah, I just for me, I think that I am just fascinated by being alive here in this human experience and of knowledge and what we can continue to acquire in terms of our understanding of this earth and our place in it and the universe. So I just kind of let my interests guide me, and for some reason this topic is one of those ones that pulls me in for one reason or another. I think
Mm,
because if it were true, it would just be such a massive discovery or realization.
yeah.
And I think there's enough of this pieces of evidence to try to prove it false or true. And yeah, I think it's just that I never have gotten to talk with somebody who has spent some time on this like we are now. So that's
Mm,
probably a good deal of my excitement and sharing, because I'm sure it took you a lot of hours of learning about this. And there's even points where I spent a lot of time researching it relatively. And there's even points in it where I was just like, why am I doing this? Like, this is ridiculous.
yeah.
Like the
What
hollow
am I
earth. I'm
getting
like,
out of this?
yeah, and so for us to be able to have these conversations, to me, that gives it a whole nother level of meaning because this is, I think this is great to just talk about this, talk about what we think, what we've learned. And yeah, I think like as a society, we just need to continue to pursue these kind of questions. And like we said before, until
Yeah.
it's definitively proven as just a wild hypothesis or theory, then to me it's still interesting. I still want to see what else we could uncover about it.
Yeah, it kind of gives you a sense of purpose, I guess, to be doing something like this, something that might be so useful and such a big breakthrough in science and in terms of what everything we've ever known. Like, if this is actually true, it changes everything we've ever known about our existence and about life and Earth, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. If you're open for it, it would definitely be great to stay in touch and see through the years,
Yeah, I would love
and
to.
do another kind of update at some point. I know you've got a lot that you're doing and whatnot, but I plan to keep doing this and having this channel for really the rest,
Mhm.
of my foreseeable life. And yeah, like you said before, I think it just gives a purpose to exploring these topics because if I'm not talking about them with anyone or if I'm not sharing my research, it kind of diminishes the purpose for me at least. I mean,
Yeah,
I think there's always a value in just your own pursuit of your own inquiries. So of
yeah,
course, but for one reason or another, I'm driven to kind of share these dives into less explored topics. And
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. And I feel like as we've quoted Vernon Jordan before, we have a reciprocal responsibility to build on what generations before us have been doing. So it's our job to continue that, to help the advancement of humanity, to help us understand more and learn about more about the universe, because there's a lot, God, there's a lot.
right. And it's so interesting because the people in history who had breakthrough discoveries or theories, so many of them, the majority, were seen as that, they were derided, they
Crazy
were
ones.
discredited, they were seen as radical,
Yeah,
and then years later
exactly.
it was like, wow, they were right.
Yeah.
So there's
It's
something
crazy to
to
think
that.
that Maybe we might be right down the line.
Yeah, I know, right? In like 50 years, we'll look back at this and be like, wow. But
That's
no,
a
like,
crazy thought.
yeah, I know, right? It sounds so insane. Like most people would just, a lot of friends or people, if I was like, I seriously think that there's a possibility of this, they would just think I'm crazy. And I would have to assume that most people would look at this topic and just not even give it,
Yeah,
any
not
any
even bother. Like,
consideration. Yeah.
not even try. I had so many heated debates with my friends after I presented the talk. It
You know,
went for days.
wow. That was something I wanted to ask you actually was when you did the TED Talk, how did it feel? Did anyone from the audience or did anyone reach out to you to either debate you or to either like
Mm.
want to find out more? How did that go?
So when I was on stage, I was focused on everyone's reaction because I knew I was presenting something completely different and controversial.
Mhm.
And then when I switched to the slide where I show them the anomalies that geologists have found at the core, at the Earth's core, I saw a lot of eyes go wide and a lot of smiles, and everyone's nodding and they're kind of accepting it. After the talk, I got the opportunity to meet some of the people, and they thought that it was an incredibly interesting topic. Some people have said that I did present strong evidence and that it kind of made them question it, but I don't think anyone actually accepted it. Like they were just open to it. It might be, but I guess again, they might have dismissed it as a theory, which is, I guess, is what most of the reception that I got was. But yeah, I had a few days after that, I had a heated debate with one of my friends, and he was trying to prove me wrong. He was trying to understand why I thought the Earth was hollow when he was stuck in his the idea of there's a core, mantle, and crust. And we never actually got to finish that debate, so I'm going to get in touch with him and we're gonna pick it up. But
Nice.
yeah, I hope someone actually moves this forward. Someone from the right field, someone with the correct background and expertise and knowledge.
Right. So you didn't get any kind of hostile reactions from anybody besides, I guess, maybe your friend.
Yeah. They were okay with it. They were nodding, but I guess everyone dismissed it as a theory.
Right. Now, in the video, and I saw when I was looking at the comments, a lot of people said this, and I guess I just wanted to ask you your thoughts on this. Your audio was very
Yeah.
bad, and people said that they've never seen a TED Talk where the audio was that bad. Do you know why the
Yeah.
audio was like that, or was there maybe some, behind the scenes reason
Oh,
that
that,
was
that's
depressed?
that's really interesting. Because my school has been doing TEDx talks for years, and the talks always turn out to be okay. Like the year before that, they had three different camera angles, and the audio was great. And I guess for us, I'm not sure why, but we just didn't have the equipment at the time, and it was students filming it. We didn't have the
Okay.
professional team come in.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a coincidence, but yeah,
Okay.
so I guess the audio just translated to that. And oh my God, the comments don't get me started.
Yeah, well, I couldn't help asking you that because people, start to speculate about things and whatnot. But
Yeah, they were speculating that Ted might possibly didn't want anyone to hear about it or things like that, which maybe, but we didn't exactly have pro equipment at the time as well, so I guess that contributed to the fact that the audio was so bad. Which I'm bummed about actually, but oh well.
yeah, got you. So, Salma, I know that you've got limited time here. We're just about out of time. I want to thank you again so much. It's been really a pleasure talking to you. And I really hope that we will talk again in the future. And good luck with everything that you're pursuing. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on this. thanks for being open-minded and coming on to discuss this.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm glad to have someone in the same field or space to talk about. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, you're welcome. And yes, I will talk to you soon. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.